The Shark Deck.
Hello and welcome to Palace Intrigue. I am your host, Mark Francis. What role will Prince George play in the coronation of his grandfather? That's yet another stress point for King Charles, as royal commentator Tom Quinn has suggested there is a bit of an argument going on behind the scenes over exactly what role Prince George will play. Quinn said, "I've heard from my contacts that there is a bit of an argument going on about whether George should play a more formal role. I've heard that Kate and William are worried that it will be too much for him. It's almost an echo of the way William and Harry were sometimes made to attend formal occasions that they shouldn't have been made to attend, most famously the funeral of their mother and walking behind her coffin at their age. A lot of people criticised that and said it was a horrible thing to make two boys that young, especially Harry, do. So I think people are remembering this and thinking, well, hang on a minute, if George is some sort of page boy or has a similar role at the coronation, is that going back too far towards the traditional roles? Charles himself briefly took part in the coronation of his mother at age 4. Diana also wonders if King Charles has made a huge blunder by leaving Prince Archie and Princess Lili out of his coronation plans. Elsa, writing for the news.com.au, said, "I wonder if one day Princess Lili, but currently 7th in line to the throne and the only member of the British monarchy born on US soil and surrounded by, I'm guessing, healing crystals and a team of high-priced doodlers, will realise how many controversies, kerfuffles and hoo-has she was involved in before the age of 2. The adorable little girl is at the centre of a new storm involving her parents, her grandfather, the Archbishop of Canterbury, 4,000 military personnel and a whole lot of horses. The argument about who is in and who is out of the procession really boils down to focusing on working members of the royal family, that group of upright sorts who week in, week out clock on for public service duty and the occasional commemorative tree planting. How can the king bring a politically, culturally and socially fractured Britain together if he doesn't even have it in him to bring all of his grandchildren together? This whole thing is such a bad look for His Majesty. No matter what damaging, ill-conceived, peevish and foot-stomping things Harry and Meghan have done for the cameras or in print, no matter what, they are probably the only people who can list palace agitator as their job description on LinkedIn. Archie and Lili are completely innocent in this mess. Charles' failure to make any sort of provisions for his two youngest grandchildren, his only grandchildren born to a biracial mother, looks not only a tad vengeful, but does nothing to counter Harry's claims of royal unconscious bias. If the 74-year-old did want the Montecito tots to be a part of things, surely we'd be seeing stories in the UK press with lines like, "His Majesty is hoping that all of his grandchildren can be a part of his coronation," or some equally pallid line. By leaving them both out of coronation plans, His Majesty is all but ensuring that the current rift between London and Montecito will only become more deeply entrenched and that it will last for generations. Royalist explained Harry and Meghan's rent mystery. They write, "Remember all the fuss about Harry and Meghan getting evicted from Frogmore Cottage? Remember the close friend who told Omid Scobie that it was outrageous because he wasn't just a random rental? Well, it turns out it really wasn't your typical rental, as the couple didn't actually hand over any rent on the cottage. Or at least not as most ordinary mortals understand the term, as regular payment, for over 2 years. Instead, after grandly announcing they wanted to refund a £2.4 million bill paid by the British taxpayer for the refurbishment of the property, the cost of those renovations was taken as rent in lieu, and the Sussexes simply stopped paying rent after 5 months. Palace Intrigue will be right back.
Hey, it's Jordan Ross Myers, the man behind Twitter's notorious Lee Radswell and Don Gunvalson. I'm inviting you to join me every week for the Pretty Corrupt podcast. Along with my co-host, reality casting director Stacey Noel Connor, and disgraced entertainment TV producer Nate Safer, we deconstruct pop culture's past, present, and future and probe the dark crevices of Hollywood, taking you inside the scandals, feuds, rises, and falls of society's rich and infamous. Alongside interviews with our celebrity friends and special guest hosts, everything is fair game on the Pretty Corrupt podcast. Every Tuesday on all streaming platforms and at storicmedia.com.
The Mirror reports King Charles has asked troops to keep down the noise made during the changing of the guard. A leaked memo reportedly read, "His Majesty remarked the other day how loud the outgoing sentries were at St. James Palace in the morning. Full marks for vigour and volume, but please could you pass down to those on guard that Clarence House is a residence and so some volume control. would be very much appreciated by those inside. The Sun reported it is thought this notice came after he was distracted from state business, including inspection of ministerial briefing papers, by the commotion outside. His note was passed on by an army officer who reportedly told the guard commanders, "Please could you pass on to your troops that when posting sentries first thing in the morning at St. James Palace that they should do so at a slightly lower volume." And there you have it. If you'd like to email us, our address is thepalaceintrigue@gmail.com. Please follow us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, even YouTube Music, or your app of choice. I'm Mark Francis. My thanks to John McDermott. This is Palace Intrigue. Good times.